The studio lights shone brightly, casting long shadows across the faces of the two men seated at the debate table. The air was thick with tension, as millions of viewers watched from around the world. It was supposed to be just another debate, a political battle where one side would try to outwit the other. But this wasn't just another debate. This was a moment in history. This was where something would shift. J.D. Vance, the seasoned political figure from the United States, was known for his sharp tongue and calculated attacks. He had spent years using his rhetoric to tear down his opponents, to build himself up. As a voice of reason in a chaotic political landscape, today he was sitting across from a man who had faced struggles he could never imagine, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the newly risen leader of Burkina Faso. The air between them crackled with intensity. The debate was supposed to focus on the future of international relations and global leadership. But as Vance took the floor, his words carried an edge that made the entire room pause. "So, Captain Traoré," Vance began, a slight smirk tugging at his lips, "your country is in chaos, corruption, violence, and constant upheaval. Here telling us about hope, about change. But how can we take that seriously when your own people are suffering?" The words landed like a slap across the room, and the studio audience seemed to hold their breath, awaiting Ibrahim's response. It was a moment designed to undermine, to provoke. But Ibrahim Traoré wasn't like the others. He wasn't there to engage in petty political games. He was there to speak truth, to show that real leadership wasn't about winning an argument, it was about transforming lives. Without hesitation, Traoré leaned forward, his voice calm yet filled with an undeniable force. "You speak of chaos, Mr. Vance," he said, "but do you know what it feels like to have your people cry out for help, to have their lives torn apart by forces beyond their control? I've seen it with my own eyes. People who have lost everything but their hope. I didn't come here to fight you. I came here to show you what true leadership looks like." For a moment, the room was silent. Vance's eyes narrowed as he processed the words. But Traoré was finished. His voice grew even steadier, more resolute. "The people I serve, our communities, they've been through wars, famines, and corruption. But what they haven't lost is their humanity. In the darkest times, I've seen them lift each other up. And that's what I've learned from them. It's not about the titles we hold, the power we claim. It's about the difference we make. In the lives of others." The room shifted. For a brief second, Vance seemed uncertain, taken aback by the weight of the words. He had expected a fiery retort, an angry response that he could use to discredit his opponent. But instead, he found himself facing a man who spoke not from a place of ego, but from a place of deep pain and profound wisdom. As the debate continued, the tension between the two men grew palpable. But Ibrahim Traoré remained unshaken, his resolve clear. He wasn't there to win in the traditional sense. He was there to win hearts. He was there to show the world that kindness could break barriers, that true strength wasn't found in how loud you could shout, but in how deeply you could listen. At one point, Vance tried to regain control of the conversation, launching into a tirade about global policies and the future of Western involvement in African nations. He used his usual tactics: attacks on immigration, accusations of exploitation. He painted a picture of a world where only the strong survived, where nations had to fend for themselves, and compassion was a luxury. But again, Traoré didn't bite. Instead, he responded with a question that shook Vance to his core. "Do you ever wonder?" Traoré asked. "What happens when we stop seeing each other as enemies? What if we saw each other as human beings first, as people who have the same desires, the same dreams for peace? What if kindness was the answer, not the problem?" The question hung in the air, and for the first time in the debate, Vance seemed lost for words. It wasn't just the question that stunned him. It was the sincerity in Traoré's voice. There was no malice, no arrogance, just an invitation to reconsider everything he had believed about power and leadership. Vance faltered, his grip on the conversation slipping. He tried to regain his composure, but the words weren't coming. The audience, who had once been ready to applaud his every jab, now watched in stunned silence. They were witnessing something rare, A leader who was unafraid to speak the truth, to show vulnerability, to embrace kindness in a way that most politicians would never dare. As the debate entered its final moments, new tension filled the air. Ibrahim Traoré had made his point, and it was clear that Vance was struggling to keep up. But there was more to the story than just a political clash. Traoré wasn't interested in showing the world that Vance was wrong. He was interested in showing the world that there was another way. With only minutes remaining, Traoré took a different approach. He looked at Vance, his expression softening. The intensity of the debate was gone, replaced by something far more powerful. "I'm not here to tear you down, Mr. Vance," Traoré said. "I'm here to offer you a chance to change, to reconsider the way you've seen the world. Because what I've learned is that change doesn't happen in the loudest room or the most powerful office. It happens when people are willing to be kind. When we listen, when we offer a hand instead of a fist." He paused, allowing the words to sink in. The room was silent, the cameras still. Even Vance seemed to pause, as though for the first time in his life. He was truly hearing the words. "Imagine if we stopped fighting each other and started fighting for each other," Traoré continued. "Imagine a world where kindness is the answer, where we see people, not problems. That's the world I'm fighting for. Oh. And I hope one day you'll join me in that fight." The words hung in the air, their weight heavier than any policy proposal, more meaningful than any political gain. It wasn't a challenge to Vance's beliefs. It was an invitation to join a movement that could change the course of history. And then, for a brief moment, something shifted in Vance. The harsh rhetoric, the carefully crafted defenses, all of it seemed to dissolve. The world saw the real Vance, vulnerable, unsure, perhaps even a little afraid. The two men stood in silence for a moment. And then, in a rare moment of connection, Vance extended his hand. It was hesitant at first, unsure, but it was still an offer. Traoré looked at him, then took his hand firmly, their handshake a symbol of the possibility for change, for kindness to unite even the most unlikely of people. As the debate came to a close, the realization of what had just occurred began to settle in. This wasn't just a political debate. It was a moment of transformation. A simple act of kindness had broken through the barriers of rhetoric, the walls built by years of division. For the first time in a long while, the world had seen what it truly meant to be a leader. And as the cameras cut to the audience, there was a sense of awe. The applause wasn't for the winner of the debate. It was for the message that had been delivered. A message that kindness, empathy, and understanding could change the world in ways that politics never could. As the screen faded to black, the voiceover urged viewers to reflect on the moment they had just witnessed. Can you imagine what the world would be like if we all embraced kindness like this? What if in every moment of conflict, we chose to listen, to understand, to offer a hand instead of a fist? The narrator paused for a moment before continuing. Let's make that change. Deal. Like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories of hope and transformation. And remember, kindness is powerful. It's the force that can change everything.